Discover the amazing moment a maid's heartwarming love exposed a millionaire's hidden kindness. Maria stood in the lavish foyer of the Beckett mansion, sunlight streaming through the crystal chandeliers like a blessing. Yet, the beauty around her felt cold and distant. Every day, she scrubbed stubborn stains from floors beneath her feet, a familiar rhythm that echoed her own struggles. As a single mother of 2 young kids, she pictured their faces, imagining their laughter during carefree days. Her love spurred her forward, navigating the challenges of poverty while working 2 grueling jobs. She had dreams, and she held them close like a shield against the world. Inside those walls, Charles Beckett, the aloof millionaire, spent his days cloaked in solitude. Though surrounded by luxury, he felt trapped under the weight of wealth, haunted by an emptiness that nobody could see. From his hidden abode, he had only ever glimpsed Maria bustling in and out of rooms, her spirit illuminating a space that felt otherwise dark. Little did he know, each tale she shared silently wove a bond, pulling him into her world of resilience. She spoke of her children's laughter, how they loved to dance in the living room, how she saved every penny to buy them books. His heart fluttered at her joy, melting the icy walls he had built around himself. Then, the skies turned angry. A torrential rainstorm swept across Aurora, transforming streets into raging rivers of chaos. Fear rippled through the community as homes filled with water, and the sounds of panic resounded like a cruel chorus. But in Maria's heart, courage took hold. She couldn't ignore the cries for help. Clutching her children close, she stepped outside, embracing the storm like a warrior ready to fight. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maria moved through the treacherous streets, rescuing neighbors caught in the rising tide, her resolve unshakable. Drenched but undeterred, her strength radiated like a beacon, inspiring others to join in. Meanwhile, Charles, peering from his mansion's window, felt an undeniable pull. The woman he'd barely noticed was out there, risking her life, organizing relief, her compassion fierce enough to stir his heart. Suddenly, Maria spotted an elderly neighbor over by the porch, trapped and terrified as the water surged. Without hesitation, she waded through, defying nature's fury. The desperate cries pierced through his solitude, prompting Charles to finally step outside. As he approached, his heart raced. This was at a pivotal moment unfurling before him. Would he embrace this raw connection or retreat back into his insular world? Standing side by side in the chaos, Maria and Charles shared a glance that transcended class and wealth. In that moment, every barrier felt fragile, as if it might crumble like a fading memory. What would they discover about each other? What truths awaited them in the aftermath of the storm? The uncertainty hung in the air like a thick fog, ripe for revelation. Their story was just beginning, and the floodwaters carried more than just destruction. They carried the promise of transformation, echoing in their hearts. The storm raged on, but amidst the chaos, a flicker of potential sparkled between Maria and Charles. His initial hesitation melted into action. He stepped closer, water splashing at his ankles, his designer shoes forgotten in the face of something far more important. "Let me help," he called out, his voice barely piercing the roar of the rain. Maria turned, surprise sparkling in her eyes. "Are you sure?" she questioned, breathless. "Absolutely," he replied, determination lending weight to his words. It was a strange sensation, a mix of fear and exhilaration propelling him forward. Together, they forged a path through the floodwaters, rescuing neighbors like a team formed in the fire of necessity. With each person they saved, each hand they pulled from the icy grip of despair, a bond thickened between them. Maria saw the humanity in Charles, saw how his laughter mingled with her own as they worked in tandem. He was not just the millionaire behind the walls, he was a man, brave in the face of adversity. As the waters began to ebb, revealing a battered but alive community, a moment of stillness enveloped them. Both soaked to the bone and panting for breath, they stood on a street strewn with debris, the remnants of that wild night. "Thank you," Maria said softly, her eyes locking onto his. "I didn't expect this from you." Charles laughed gently, a sound filled with both relief and realization. "Neither did I," he admitted. There was something about this woman, her strength, her commitment to her family and her neighbors, that made him rethink everything he believed about himself. As they began to reorient themselves, a shared mission emerged. The emergency shelters needed supplies, the community was in disarray. Maria's voice rang with purpose, immediately making plans. "If we gather volunteers, we can organize a fundraiser," she suggested. "I know the perfect spot, a local cafe that's been supportive over the years." "Then let us do it," Charles agreed, energized by her spirit. "I can cover the costs. Just tell me what's needed." The two spent the next few hours in a whirlwind of coordination. Their laughter floated through the storm's aftermath, weaving joy into a day defined by despair. They called friends, neighbors, and even acquaintances, people who had drifted apart but now found a common purpose. By late afternoon, as the sun peeked through the clouds, casting a hopeful glow over Aurora, a small group gathered at the cafe. Tables filled with baked goods, warm soup, and clothes piled up as patrons handed over donations, all while Maria and Charles worked the room. Each smile, each thank you, forged a connection not just between them, but within the community. "I never thought I'd find this," Charles said with genuine awe during a brief pause. He was wringing out the hem of his shirt, eyes shining. "You've opened my eyes." Maria focused on a small child holding a pie, grinning from ear to ear. "We all have potential, Charles. Sometimes it just takes a storm to bring it out." As the evening settled in with a sense of unity, their hands brushed, an electric moment that sent shivers down Maria's spine. Was it just the thrill of the day or something deeper? Before she could ponder longer, a sudden commotion erupted at the cafe entrance. An angry man stormed in, shouting accusations, his eyes fiery with indignation. "What is going on here? This is not right." Maria's heart caught in her throat. Who was this man, and what troubled the fragile peace they had just begun to forge? Charles stepped forward, brimming with resolve. "How can we help?" he demanded, ready to protect the newfound community they had worked so hard to build. The air hung heavy with tension. The storm might have passed, but the real challenges were just beginning. What would come next for Maria and Charles as they faced yet another storm, this time from within their makeshift community? The man's shouting muted the hubbub of the cafe, his voice slicing through the warmth that had just enveloped the room. Maria tensed, exchanging a quick glance with Charles. His demeanor was calm, eyes steady, but she sensed the heart racing beneath his composed exterior. "What do you think you're doing?" The man spat, pointing an accusing finger toward the donated goods. "This is my neighborhood too, you can't just come in here and take over." The room fell silent. Eyes shifted to the man, a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Maria took a step forward, her voice steady yet warm. "We're just trying to help. Many of us lost everything in the storm, and we're collecting supplies to support those in need." "Oh, right." He scoffed, arms crossed defiantly over his chest. "And who gave you the authority? You think you can just waltz in here and play savior?" Maria's heart surged with an unexpected urgency. She sensed the pain beneath his anger. Perhaps he had lost something too. "I understand that it's frustrating," she began, choosing her words carefully. "But this is about us coming together as a community." Charles stepped beside her, matching her quiet strength. "We can't rebuild without everyone's help. We're all in this together. Can we ask for your support instead of raising barriers?" The man hesitated, caught off guard by their unwavering resolve. The tension in the air quivered, uncertain. An older lady from the back spoke up, her voice steady despite the chaos. "He's right. We all need each other now more than ever. I lost my home, but look at how many of us are offered shelter right now." A ripple of murmurs grew in the crowd, voices intertwining together like a soft chorus, calling for unity. Maria caught sight of the man's face hardening, but just as quickly, it shifted as he scanned the small room filled with the willing and the earnest. "You think you can just fix everything with a few supplies?" he retorted, but his voice was softer now, hinting at doubt. "What about the bigger problems, the real issues?" Charles leaned in slightly, lowering his voice into a conversational tone, almost inviting. "No one here is pretending to have all the answers," he said. "But what we can do is start with compassion, helping one another." Maria's heart began to beat faster as she felt a glimmer of hope. With every word Charles spoke, she saw the man hesitating, evaluating. "Nobody is saying we can fix everything overnight. But every small step matters," she added, her voice carrying the weight of sincerity. The man clenched his jaw, looking around at the faces surrounding him. One by one, they lightened, hopeful glimmers lighting their expressions. Finally, he let out a deep breath, shoulders relaxing slightly. "I don't need charity," he muttered, but there was no heat left. "We don't want to give charity, we want to create community," Maria replied gently. "We're all stronger together." After a moment's longer pause, he sighed, the anger in his eyes flickering to resignation. "Fine. I'll help, but don't expect me to smile about it." Relief washed over Maria as she glanced at Charles, his eyes full of approval. As they turned back to the gathering, a buzz of gratitude and newfound connection spread through the cafe. "Let us set some goals then," Charles declared, enthusiasm igniting in his voice once more. A soft laughter broke out, shifting the mood as the man found a seat among them, a small nod signifying his reluctant acceptance. As plans emerged for their next steps, an unspoken bond formed, each laugh and shared comment reinforcing the unity that had seemed fragile only moments before. But just as spirits began to soar, Maria caught sight of Charles peering at his phone, brow furrowed. The energy shifted, worry creeping into his features. "What is it?" she asked, concern peeking through her voice. "My father just texted, he's coming to Aurora for the first time in years," he said slowly, his eyes searching hers for understanding. "He doesn't know why I'm here." With feelings rising within her, Maria felt the unfamiliar churn of anxiety. "What does he want?" Charles shook his head, apprehensive. The air grew thick with uncertainty. "I don't know, but I have to face him now." The stakes had risen again. Could Charles navigate this new tide while keeping the momentum of their community alive? Maria felt a deep well of connection to him surge, but as another storm breached the horizon, she realized navigating these next waters could change everything. Would this next encounter pull them apart or bring them closer together? The buzz of laughter faded into a hush as the weight of Charles's revelation settled over the cafe like a thick cloud. Maria could feel her pulse quickening, anticipation mingling with concern. She stepped closer to Charles, taking his hand gently. "You don't have to confront him alone, you know," she said softly, though her own heart felt heavy. His eyes met hers, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. "It's been years, Maria. I never thought I'd have to deal with him again, let alone here, in this moment of our lives." "I don't even know what he wants," he replied, his voice a tight whisper filled with the unspoken dread of old wounds reopening. Around them, the conversation faltered, but one by one, the patrons began to rally again, discussing ways to help those in need. Maria admired how the spirit of community persevered, even as her own thoughts roiled with uncertainty. She could sense the man who had challenged them earlier watching from the corner, his scowl softening as he listened to the hopeful chatter of his neighbors. "What if he wants to drag you back to your old life?" Maria wondered aloud. The thought hung in the air, anxiety curling in her chest. "You've worked so hard to find your own path here." Charles took a deep breath, nodding slowly. "I know, but that life is gone, or at least it should be. I need him to understand that. I don't want to go back." "Then don't," Maria said, her voice firmer now as a wave of determination washed over her. "You have a community here. You're not that boy anymore. You're a leader and a friend. You have the strength to stand your ground." His fingers tightened around hers, a flicker of resolve replacing doubt in his eyes. "You're right. I can't let him pull me under again." Just then, the man from earlier stood up, clearing his throat. "Listen," he said, his voice carrying over the chatter. "I didn't mean to disrupt things. We all have our ghosts. We can help each other fight them. If we can focus on rebuilding, maybe we can also find a way to confront what is holding us back." Maria could see the hesitation in the crowd's faces shift to hope. She felt the collective energy rising in the room once more as people nodded in agreement. The man continued, his voice growing stronger, "If we can stand together today, we can stand together against anything, even our past." Charles looked at Maria, a question in his eyes. Could he afford to stand firm against his father, knowing there were people depending on him? "Maybe you should talk to your father in a way that shows him who you've become," Maria suggested, squeezing Charles's hand. "Not just defending the community but defending yourself too." With a new purpose forming, Charles stood straighter. "Right. I guess the old ways of hiding need to end. I've built a life here with you all. This is my home." Encouragement rippled through the cafe. They had been brought together against the storm that had swept through their lives, and now they were ready to weather their individual tempests as well. As plans to repair the community unfolded around them, Maria felt a swell of pride. This work was empowering, not just for Charles but for everyone. They were becoming stronger, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. But the anticipation fell thick once more as Charles's phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a name that sent a shiver through him. "It's him," he said, eyes darting to the door, already feeling the weight of what was to come. "I need to figure out how to handle this." Maria's heart raced with him, tension electrifying the air. Would his father's arrival shatter the unity they had just begun to forge? Or could it be the catalyst for something greater? A shadow passed over Charles's face as he stood uncertain, the door swinging slightly in rhythm with the pounding of his heart. Here they were, on the brink of transformation, teetering between old wounds and the promise of something new. What would happen when the past knocked at their door? Charles stared at the phone, the name blaring on the screen, Dad. It felt like a hammer pounding against his chest. Every instinct screamed for him to turn away, but deep down, a flicker of defiance ignited. He had spent too many years running. "Are you going to answer?" Maria asked, her voice a soft anchor in the storm of his thoughts. He hesitated, the anticipation hanging heavy in the air. What if he doesn't understand? What if he just wants to tear me down again? "Then remind him who you are now," Maria urged gently. "You're strong. You have a life. You don't have to let him take that from you again." It was the reassurance he needed. Charles could feel the warmth of the cafe wrapping around him, the spirit of his friends igniting a courage he thought had long faded. With a nod that felt monumental, he took a deep breath and pressed the green button, waiting as the shrill ring echoed loudly in the silence. "Hello?" The voice on the other end dripped with a mix of authority and something else, disappointment. Anger? He couldn't tell. "Dad," Charles said, his own voice firm, yet trembling slightly. "I know it's been years." "Years, Charles." The anger crackled like static. "You left without a word. You think I haven't noticed? And now you're hiding in some little cafe, pretending like you're what? A community leader? This isn't pretend. I've built something real here," Charles replied, his heart racing. The warmth of the cafe felt like a shield, even as his father's dismissive tone slashed through it. "I have friends. We're helping each other. I'm not that lost kid you knew." The silence on the other end was heavy, charged. But then came a shift, a low chuckle mixed with scorn. "Friends? You think they would choose you over the life I can offer? You need to come home. It's time to reclaim your place." "No." Charles's voice rose, surprising even himself. "I'm not going back. That life was suffocating me. I'm here for a reason now. This is where I belong." For a moment, there was nothing but breath on the line. Maria could see the determination shaping Charles's face. Would his father understand? Would he back down? "Then I'm sure you'll be fine," his father replied finally, a murmur of mockery hidden in the edge of his words. "I'll see you soon. We need to talk about your future and what it means to be a part of my family." The call disconnected with an abrupt beep that left Charles breathless. He dropped the phone onto the table, his hands shaking. What did he say? Maria leaned in, her eyes scanning his face. Anxiety mingled with newfound strength. "He thinks he can just come back." Like nothing's changed, Charles said, anger pooling within him. "He doesn't get it. This is my life now. I want to let him take it." Emotion rippled through the cafe as those nearby sensed the tension, their faces reflecting a mix of concern and pride. The man from earlier stepped forward, his eyes locked onto Charles. "You have a team here. Together, you can face him. You're not alone." As tension filled the space once more, Charles felt a surge from the cafe community, their nods pushing him forward. "You're right. I can't and won't back down." But as he met the eyes of the people around him, a sudden realization struck him deeper than the last. If this confrontation went sideways, what would he put at risk? The friendships? The community he worked so hard to forge? Charles knew he was standing on a precipice, ready to confront the shadows of his past, and yet uncertain of what would rise up to meet him. Could he truly protect all he loved from the grip of a parent's influence? Maria squeezed his hand tighter. "We'll face it together. You don't have to do this alone." Before he could fully process her words, the cafe door swung open, creaking ominously. All eyes turned as the wind rushed in, carrying a chill that settled firmly on Charles's spine. There stood his father, framed tall and rigid, with a flicker of something unreadable in his gaze. Charles's heart sank. It was here, the moment he had dreaded most. Would he be able to hold his ground? Would this be the test that defined who he had become? The room held its breath, and from within the silence came an echoing imperative. The moment of truth had arrived. The cafe buzzed with nervous energy. Charles felt all eyes on him as his father stepped inside, exuding an air of authority that was as familiar as it was daunting. His friends shifted in their seats, glancing between Charles and the imposing figure in the doorway, and for a moment, the world shrank down to just the three of them, Charles, his father, and the fraught history they carried. "Charles," his father said, with an edge of casual dismissal. "I didn't expect to find you in such an unremarkable place." The disdain dripped from his words, echoing the very sentiments that had chased Charles away in the first place. "It's home for me now," Charles shot back, finding a flicker of strength deep inside. "This is where I learned to live really live." His father stepped closer, surveying the surroundings as though he was inspecting a poorly constructed house. "Life isn't about cozy cafes, Charles. It's about power, prestige, and the status you deserve. I'm here to remind you of that. Don't you see?" "That's exactly what I'm trying to escape," Charles said, fists tightening on the table. "I want more than just what you offer. I've built something real." The tension crackled in the air, and Charles could sense the disbelief radiating from his father. "What have you truly built? A place where you pretend friends care about you? They don't know the first thing about responsibility. They don't know where you came from." "They know enough," Charles said, his voice lowering, yet steady. "They chose me, and I chose them. That's something you'll never understand. You think love is transactional, something you can just order and pay for. But I know what real connections feel like." His father's face twisted into a mix of annoyance and bewilderment. Maria squeezed his hand tighter, lending him her strength. Without her, he might have faltered, but against his father's image of success, he stood grounded in his truth. "Real connections?" His father scoffed loudly. "You mistake fleeting acquaintances for something meaningful." He placed a commanding hand on the table, leaning in. "You need to listen to me. I'm offering you a chance to reclaim your future, to return to the family that can give you everything your heart desires." The crowd was silent, their collective breath bated as they watched the battle unfold. Charles felt the weight of their gazes and suddenly realized this wasn't just about him, it was about them too. About choice and growth, about deferring to fear or embracing the courage to change. Here's the thing, Dad. I don't need what you offer. My future is already here with the people that support me and lift me up. This is my family now, he said, gesturing towards his newfound community. Maria smiled encouragingly, the spark of hope glowing in her eyes. His father fell silent for a moment, eyes narrowing. Then he chuckled again, though this time it had a bitter edge. You think you can reject who you are? You will always carry your blood, Charles. You can't outrun the legacy I built. That's where you're wrong. I've done more than outrun it. I've embraced who I want to be, not who you want me to be. The fire inside Charles blazed. He felt like he was coming alive in a way he had never known, truth spilling out despite the weight of the past pulling at him. And if you can't accept that, then you will never truly understand me, he finished, voice calm but resolute. The room was electric. People whispered amongst themselves, eyes darting between father and son, some smiling, some gasping, others with open mouths. It was a moment of collective solidarity, of unspoken agreement. His father stepped back, disbelief etched on his face, but there was something deeper lurking in his eyes. Was it concern? Or was it pride hidden beneath layers of disapproval? Charles couldn't tell, but in that moment, he realized he had stood his ground. But just as a hint of uncertainty flitted across his father's expression, the door opened again. More faces flooded in, uninvited yet familiar. A thick silence fell as a new wave of tension washed over the cafe. Charles's heart raced at the sudden intrusion. Was it more of his father's allies? Or could it be someone from his past, aiming to exploit this vulnerable moment? The air thick with uncertainty, he felt Maria's reassuring grip on his hand. Who else is here? She whispered, her eyes darting around. Charles couldn't shake the feeling that even greater challenges lay ahead, waiting just outside their circle. Would they be ready when the past came crashing back again? Would he be able to protect everything he had worked to build? He turned to face the new influx of people, fear and resolve battling inside him. Uncertainty flickered, but he knew one thing: standing alone was no longer an option. Faced with the winds of change, he had to make a choice: fight or flee. As the crowd slowly parted, revealing the identities of those newly arrived, Charles felt his heart begin to pound once more. Who would enter this moment of truth? The crowd parted, revealing figures that sent a jolt through Charles's system. There, at the forefront, stood two of his old friends from high school, Megan and Jake. Their faces displayed a mixture of surprise and concern, but it was the others behind them that sent chills down his spine. Charles's pulse quickened as he recognized the weight of their presence. They had come not just to witness but to echo the life he had tried so hard to escape. Charles, Megan whispered, eyes wide as they locked onto him. What is going on? His throat tightened. He felt exposed, his vulnerability laid bare under the judgmental gaze of his past. The cafe, once a sanctuary, now felt like a ring where he had to fight not just his father but the memories tethering him back to a life he thought he'd left behind. What are you all doing here? Charles managed, his voice shaky. Jake stepped forward, a determined look painting his features. We saw your dad walk in. We didn't want to leave you hanging. We figured you might need backup. Yeah, Megan added, her voice soft, yet firm. We're your friends, remember? We've got your back. Charles felt a swell of emotion at their loyalty, but it was bittersweet. Was this what he truly wanted? A revisit of friendships that had faded, overshadowed by the choices he'd made? The air simmered with tension, the weight of the past and the present colliding. Your friends? His father's voice sliced through the moment. He laughed, but it was a mirthless sound. You surround yourself with these children, and expect to build something that lasts? Megan pressed on. We're not children, Mr. Martin. We know Charles. We understand what he's trying to do. He's found a life that's honest and real, while you're here trying to pull him back into a world that's suffocating him. Charles felt a flicker of gratitude towards her words. Each syllable sparked a flicker of hope within him, reminding him of the bond they had forged, one forged in the lack of approval, the drive to be real when reality was ferociously constructed by expectations. His father narrowed his eyes, but the sudden tension was interrupted as another couple of figures broke through the throng. Jack and Sarah, old faces from college days, eyes bright with unmasked surprise. "Charles? We heard you were back in town," Jack shouted over the buzz of the cafe. Charles's heart sank even further. This wasn't just his high school pals, this was everyone, from the threads of his past converging right where the future felt so wobbly. The memories rolled in like a tide, drawing him back when he was hoping to push forward. "Just because you bring your old friends doesn't mean you're any less destined to fail," his father sneered, the condescension ripe in his tone. Charles took a deep breath, locking eyes with Maria. Her unwavering support anchored him. "No, Dad. This isn't about failure. It's about connecting with people who value me for who I am." "Is that really true?" his father challenged, casting a dubious glance at the group. "Can they help you when the bills come due? When time catches up?" The atmosphere grew thick with uncertainty, each person grappling silently with the past that tied them together while yearning for a different future. For a split second, the cafe felt more like a therapy room than a gathering of friends. Charles's thoughts raced. Should he try to smooth things over, or let this explode? He felt his heart hammering. "You don't understand what it means to have real connections. They're not here because they expect something. They're here because they care about me." Suddenly, amidst the tense standoff, Megan took a step toward him, her eyes filled with determination. "You deserve to chase who you want to be, Charles. We stand with you, no matter what. You're more than your last name or your dad's legacy." The room quieted, the collective weight of their solidarity so palpable that Charles could almost touch it. His father's hovering presence felt more like a ghost now, an echo of threats that couldn't linger against the warmth of friendship flanking him. But as Charles prepared to speak, ready to rally his friends for support, the cafe door swung open again with a crash. The light from outside illuminated a figure that sent the room into a hush. Who else had arrived, and what did they want? Would they usher in more judgment or something else entirely? Charles's stomach twisted with unease, his heart still running fast. He couldn't help but wonder if this newcomer would tip the balance once and for all. Would he be able to pull his life back from the edge? As the door swung open, Charles squinted against the bright light, heart thumping. The figure that stepped in was not someone he was prepared to see. It was Lisa, someone he'd considered a confidant so many years ago when he was still navigating the complex maze of high school and family expectations. The room buzzed with whispers and curious glances, everyone holding their breath, waiting for her next move. "Charles!" Lisa shouted, her voice slicing through the tension like a knife. She rushed toward him, her curly hair bouncing with each determined stride. "There you are. I've been trying to get in touch." Then, noticing the surrounding crowd, she hesitated, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. His heart raced at her presence. Memories flooded over him, late-night talks about dreams, shared laughter that echoed down empty school halls. But that was a lifetime ago, buried beneath regrets and choices he wished he could change. "What is going on?" she demanded, her eyes darting around the group like a hawk observing its surroundings. "I heard rumors your dad's showing up here. You okay?" Charles fought to steady his voice. "I'm working through things, Lisa." The weight of his father's judgment loomed in the air, heavier than ever. He felt exposed, the conversation opening up wounds he thought had begun to heal. Lisa approached the group, her energy palpable. "I don't like the look of this," she said with a hint of defiance. "Everyone needs to back off. If you're here for support, you can't judge Charles for who he is." "Support? Is that what this is?" His father scoffed, taking a step forward, his presence even more imposing now with the added audience. "Your friends don't know what's at stake here. They're living in a fantasy." Megan shot a glare toward Charles's father. "Actually, they do know. Charles is done being someone he is not just to please you. That's the fantasy. The fire in her voice ignited a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Charles absorbed the tensions pushing and pulling around him, confused yet encouraged. Wasn't that what he needed? Friends who saw through the walls he built, who truly understood the struggle against the rising tide of expectations? But as he contemplated saying something, opening up, Lisa slipped her hand into his, grounding him. "You're more than your last name, Charles," she said softly, her eyes locking onto his. "You really are a good person. You deserve happiness, whatever that looks like for you." Charles felt warmth pool in his chest. Maybe there was a way to bridge the gap between his past and the fresh start he craved. What if he took a leap? The uncertainty clawed at him, but he turned his focus to the friends gathered in solidarity around him. I just want to be me," he began, feeling a confidence bubbling under the surface. "Maybe it's time to stop running, to face everything that brought me here." Suddenly, his father let out a bitter laugh, cutting through Charles's small victory. "Face what? Failure?" In that moment, something shifted in the room. Jack stepped forward, shaking his head. "What if we were to redefine what failure means?" He took a deep breath. "Is it truly failure if you're brave enough to embrace who you are?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, a tide of support washing over Charles as Lisa tightened her grip on his hand. It felt powerful. It felt right. Yet, in the back of his mind, doubt flickered. Could he truly shed the layers of expectation and disappointment? Could he really walk into his future as himself, surrounded by those who believed in him, ready to face his father's wrath? Before he could voice any of this, the cafe door swung open again, and in walked someone starkly out of place, a woman clad in a bright red coat, her confident strut instantly drawing attention. Charles's stomach churned as curiosity roared around him. Who was she, and what role did she play in this already tangled web? His mind raced with possibilities. Could this newcomer change everything again? Would she be a force for good, or another piece of his past come back to haunt him? The uncertainty hung in the air like a charged wire, and Charles knew he had to brace himself for whatever was about to unfold. The woman in the red coat scanned the cafe with an intensity that made Charles's palms sweat. She seemed to exude a confidence that enchanted and terrified him all at once. As she stepped further inside, the whispers grew louder, the crowd drawn to her like moths to a flame. Lisa squeezed Charles's hand tighter, her eyes narrowing as she studied the newcomer. "Do you know her?" she asked, her voice low enough that only he could hear. "No," he replied, shaking his head. But something told him this woman, whoever she was, had a purpose, a reason for walking into this moment. The tension in the room turned electric as she approached, her heels clicking against the polished floor. People parted for her, eyes wide with curiosity. Finally, she stopped in front of Charles, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that made him choke down a lump in his throat. "Charles, right?" she asked, her voice smooth and inviting. "I've heard a lot about you." His mind raced. Who was this? Why was she here? Yeah, I'm Charles." His voice came out shaky, a far cry from the steadiness he wanted to project. "Good to meet you." "I'm Delilah," she said, extending a hand. Charles hesitated for a split second before grabbing it. Her grip was warm, firm, as if she was trying to convey something: understanding, strength, maybe even solidarity. "We should talk," she continued, her gaze shifting briefly to the crowd before returning to him. "I've been watching you navigate this family circus of yours. It's brave what you're doing." "Brave?" he echoed, suddenly feeling foolish for standing there like a deer caught in headlights. "I'm not sure it feels that way. Bravery isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes, it's just showing up, speaking your truth even when it's terrifying." Her words hit Charles like a wave crashing against rocks, stirring something deep inside him. His father scoffed from the sidelines, crossing his arms as if dismissing the very notion of bravery displayed before him. "And what do you know about him, Delilah? What does a stranger know about bravery?" "More than you might think," she replied, unwavering and fierce. "I see someone at a crossroads. someone ready to fight for who he really is. That takes courage. A smattering of approval from the group boosted Charles's spirits. Jack smirked, almost proudly, while Lisa gave him an encouraging nod. Maybe he wasn't alone after all. Listen, Delilah leaned in closer, I know that feeling of being trapped by expectations. I'm just a girl from a small town who carved her path, despite everything. Her eyes sparkled with memories, and for a brief moment, Charles could see a light of shared understanding between them. Why are you really here? He asked, desperation seeping into his voice. He needed clarity. Was she here to help him or to stir the pot further? I'm here because life is too short to hide, she admitted, her expression softening. And I know how bittersweet it can be to break free from the chains of what others expect. He felt the weight of her words. Each syllable resonated deep within, igniting a flicker of rebellion in him. Maybe he could be just as bold. Maybe I need to hear more, he murmured, as the chatter around them faded into a mere backdrop. But before Delilah could respond, a loud crash erupted from the back of the cafe. A chair toppled over, drawing everyone's attention. The moment shattered, and tension surged as another face filled the doorway, one that Charles recognized all too well. It was someone from his past, someone whose arrival threatened to unravel him yet again. His heart sank as they looked straight at him. What now? Would this be the catalyst of chaos he feared, or an unexpected turn in his journey toward freedom? The figure that stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the fiery sunset outside, was unmistakably Sarah, an old friend from his childhood, a person he thought he had left behind. Her vibrant spirit used to light up the room, but in that moment, she looked worn and battered, as if life had finally caught up with her. Charles. She called out, her voice shaky but loud enough to grab everyone's attention. The tension felt thick enough to cut with a knife, the air buzzing with anxiety and curiosity as the crowd shifted towards her. I can't believe you're here. His heart was torn. Sarah had once been his confidant, the one who understood the pressures they both faced. But what had happened to her? Memories flooded back, the laughter, the secrets, the shared dreams of escaping their small town. Yet, that was a lifetime ago, and now she was here, uninvited and full of uncertainty. Why did you come? He asked softly, the weight of too many emotions threatening to spill over. I heard about your dad, she said, her breath coming in short pants. I didn't want you to face him alone. Her presence unfurled a mixture of warmth and dread. The room, which held the promise of unity, seemed to teeter on a precipice once again. Would her arrival create chaos, or could it solidify the foundation they all sought to build? Charles glanced at those gathered around, a blend of friends from different times in his life, all of whom had stood up alongside him, ready to push back against the expectations that had previously defined him. Lisa, Megan, Jake, Delilah, they were all invested in this narrative he was threading together. Sarah, his father's voice boomed, laced with contempt. Look at what you've chosen to walk into. Do you really want to be associated with this? This misguided notion of community? Shut up, Sarah shot back, her eyes blazing with defiance. You don't control him anymore, and you certainly don't control us. The determination in her voice struck a chord within the group, and hope seemed to flutter like wings. See, this is what I mean, Charles's father sneered. You gravitate towards chaos, people who will only drag you down. This is beneath you, Charles. But as he looked around, he recognized that this wasn't chaos, it was humanity. Each person surrounding him was a testament to bravery, ready to face the past and forge a new future together. I'm not afraid of chaos, Charles said, feeling the fire in his belly rising. This is who I choose to be. And if you can't accept that, then you don't belong in my life. The crowd began to murmur in agreement, and he could feel that electric charge in the air, an unyielding force of unity. He turned to Sarah, who was holding her ground amidst the turmoil. Why did you stop connecting with us? He asked. I thought I had to find my way alone, just like you, she replied, her voice layered with regret and resolve. But I realized that I didn't have to. None of us do. We can lift each other. Everyone leaned in, wrapped in a cocoon of solidarity. With each word exchanged, they shared pieces of their lives, their wounds turning into badges of honor. Charles glanced at Delilah, who nodded in encouragement, then to Lisa, who smiled warmly, and to everyone else, their faces painted with hope and understanding. This realization washed over him like a cleansing tide. He was not alone, no matter how daunting the journey seemed. His father scoffed. "You think people like this can help you? They're living in delusion. When push comes to shove, they will abandon you." Charles felt nails dig into his palm as he squeezed his friend's hands. "No. They've proved they're here for me. They will not abandon me." His father's disappointment slowly twisted into something more sinister, a lapse in judgment perhaps. Charles could feel that old pulse of anxiety rise again, and he pressed onward. "This is about facing fears. Realizing I can be more than what was handed down to me." A moment of silence fell over the cafe. It was the kind of silence where the world held its breath, waiting for something to crack open, like the dawn breaking through the night's darkness. Suddenly, Delilah stepped forward. "Charles, you're more than your last name or your past. You have a community that supports you. We all want you to thrive. Together, we're stronger than any expectation that's ever been placed on us." A tremor of agreement rippled through the room, and Sarah stepped up beside him, her determination shining bright. "We can build something incredible out of this. I won't let anyone hold me down anymore, especially not those from my past." In that moment, Charles felt something shift. A shape, a direction, a choice. He turned back to his father, surprised by the calm resolve that filled him. "You'll never be able to take that away from me," he declared, his voice steady. "This community is my family now, and together we will face anything you throw at us." For the first time, something flickered across his father's face, an acknowledgement of defeat, perhaps. The man who once seemed so unyielding now felt threatened by the strength of community, and it terrified him. With each second that ticked on, Charles felt lighter. This was not the end, but a beginning, a celebration of identity, friendship, and resilience. The cafe radiated warmth, filling the void left by years lost to chaos. As the conversations unfolded, the newfound connections sparked moments of laughter, joy, and understanding. They wove a tapestry of hope, one built to endure whatever storms lay ahead. One by one, people shared their stories, the echoes of pain transforming into laughter as they connected over shared experiences. With each story woven in, they fortified their bond, making it nearly palpable in the air. Just then, Charles noticed a reflection in the window, the fading sunlight dancing among the scattered chairs and potted plants outside, casting warmth across the room. It felt as if the universe bore witness to this moment, gently reminding them of the power they possessed. They were not victims, they were warriors armed with love and hope. The night was just beginning. As they stood together, a tribe of misfits and heartbeats united, they took their first steps toward a future so vivid and alive that it shimmered like starlight, promising endless possibilities ahead. How they would navigate the new journey remained uncertain, but with one another's arms wrapped around them, fear was left behind. And in that catharsis of acceptance, Charles whispered softly enough for only his friends to hear, "Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for helping me see through the storm. Whatever comes next, we're doing this together." His heart swelled as they nodded, smiles illuminating the newfound courage they shared. The door swung wide open to a fresh start. But before he could step further into this new chapter, all he could think of was how far he had come and how he would choose to cherish every moment ahead, pain and all. Together was a place he had only ever dreamt of, and now it was real. While the past may sometimes beckon, the dawn was rising, and they had only just begun to uncover the beauty waiting on the other side. Now, they would face the new storms together, hands intertwined, hearts open, and spirits soaring high. And, oh, how he would fight for that. As the crowd erupted in applause, laughter and cheer echoed through the air, reflected in the grains of the worn wooden beams of the cafe. A journey of transformation had only just begun. Now, go ahead and take your step. To never miss the journey, you need to subscribe now. Hit that like button to share the love and keep the stories flowing. We want to see your comments about this powerful ending, your emotions, and what you felt throughout the ride. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Join us on this adventure. Your support matters.